Okay, so welcome everyone. Tonight we have a double feature, double presentation. So first we have Sunny Mullen and Ian Burkhart on behalf of Help Hope Live. Sunny is the Director of Outreach, and Help Hope Live supports community-based fundraising for people with unmet medical needs like us with spinal cord injuries. So Sunny, go for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us tonight. Ian is one of our wonderful brand ambassadors as well, and he hails from your great state of Ohio. So he's thankfully joining me tonight to speak with you all about the user experience, the client experience with Help Hope Live. I don't know that any of you look familiar, but we spoke with your group. I can't believe it. It's been maybe almost a year ago now. So we're just really happy to be back and to be serving your community. So Help Hope Live, as Meg said, is a national nonprofit, and it is our mission to support community-based fundraising for people with unmet medical expenses and related costs due to cell and organ transplants, catastrophic injuries, and catastrophic illnesses. And what we do is quite literally in our name. We help ease the financial burden of a medical crisis. We provide hope at a time of overwhelming need, and we support patients to live their lives as fully as possible. We've actually been around now for just over 38 years. We were founded here. We're based out of Philadelphia. We were founded here in the Philadelphia region at Temple University by a heart transplant surgeon and his wife, who was a nurse, and they were helping their patients fundraise for what were then very experimental heart transplants. And from there, we've just taken off to the point that we are now really assisting anyone living with a catastrophic medical condition that is experiencing a financial hardship. So these conditions are just, growing by the minute, unfortunately, but we're happy that we're here to be able to help and to help fundraise in responsible and safe ways. So let me tell you how we do that and what is the advantage of coming to Help Hope Live. We set you up with a campaign page on our website and a one-on-one client services coordinator that gives you all of the tools and the support necessary to go into your communities and put on successful fundraisers. They help you create flyers, plan your fundraisers, figure out who your community is, all of that nitty-gritty behind the scenes work that you shouldn't have to do by yourself. And we're here to support you through that. You go out and do the fundraising. The funds come back to Help Hope Live and our Help Hope Live assets. So they should not affect any of your asset-based benefits or become taxable income to you or your family. And then you submit your bills to us and we help pay those bills directly. And we're here for your entire lifetime. As long as you have a need, we're here to help you fundraise toward that need. And because we are a nonprofit, all donations that are made in your honor are tax deductible to the fullest extent of the law for that donor. And the donor could be eligible for matching grants, sometimes double or even triple their donation. And another really important reason that people come to us is that we medically verify all of our campaigns that we work with. We have a great, vast network of medical professionals all over the country, and they verify each and every one of our clients, letting our community know that this individual does indeed have the medical condition they say they do, that they have the financial need they say they do, and that they are working with us to do their fundraising. Ian, I don't know if you want to jump in a little bit and just explain how you came to us and how all of this why you actually came to Help Hope Live.
Certainly, yeah. Hi, everybody. My name's Ian Burkhart. I live in Columbus, Ohio now. I had my spinal cord injury almost 12 years ago when I was 19 years old. And like everyone knows, it's a daunting challenge and change in your life from, with everything, especially medically and financially. I was introduced to Help Hope Live by a friend of my family who had previously donated to someone else's campaign in their honor. but this was, in the era before GoFundMe or anything like that. And if you wanted to raise money at a community level, you really had to set up like a trust with a bank or whatever that may be. So it was kind of an easy fit for me. The biggest thing that I liked is they had someone who was there to help support you along the way. So they were able to help guide my family through the process of setting things up. So we had an initial fundraiser to raise a lot of funds. And, another thing that Sunny already mentioned is, since these assets aren't in your name, particularly, they don't jeopardize your benefits or being able to apply for any, fund restricted needs. So I was just really glad that there was something out there like this. They were able to help me pay for things initially, some of the hospital payments that were not covered by insurance, and then some modifications to my home, a ramp so I can take it with me to visit other people's houses, a backup wheelchair, and a lot of the things that we all know are necessary, but health insurance companies say is not necessary. And so early on, they were really a huge help with me to, have a resource like that, so that, when my community wanted to do something, they had a place to help. And then, since it's been almost 12 years now, I've kind of gone through waves of times where I've needed funds, needed to raise funds or not needed to, and they've been with me the whole time, which is great. So, I mean, recently I had some issues with my van and needed things like that covered. So I was able to fundraise for that specific need. And, then I did a few years ago when I moved into where I live now, I did some home modifications and things like that. So it's really exciting that I can use this resource throughout my journey as, living with someone with a spinal cord injury.
Thank you. And so, yeah, and Ian, what types of fundraisers have you done through the years? What's been successful for your community?
Yeah, so the first fundraiser we did was actually a dodgeball tournament at my high school, which was, I think, a lot of fun for people to play in. And that was when I was still in the hospital, so I didn't go to that. But then since then, we've done a few fundraisers. We did like a portion of proceeds night at a local restaurant. And then we did a like gala silent auction style night. And then honestly, from there, we haven't really done any events in a while. It's just been more of sharing it out along social media and Facebook and things like that through my community for specific events, like around my birthday or the anniversary of my accident and things like that, to have people help for some of those ongoing medical expenses that I do have.
Awesome. And so, yeah, it's truly, fundraising, because we're a national nonprofit, fundraising looks completely different to everyone and everyone's communities. There is truly nothing too big or too small. And that's what the client services coordinators are here to help you harness your community and figure out what your interests are and what will help bring your community out, whether that's an in-person event, whether that's a virtual event. We can do really great Facebook fundraisers anymore. We have a toolkit for a 5K that you could do that's coming up in the spring. In the fall, we do a lot around Giving Tuesday. So we have a couple of fundraisers that would be automatically set up for you in your community while you're trying to personalize them as well. And, something that's really important that I think Ian's kind of touched on through the years too, the fact that he's been with us for so long at this point, is with that campaign page that you get, is maintaining your community. And Ian, I know, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago when we spoke, is, so many years after your injury, how important it is to keep your community updated and why you're still fundraising and how you're still fundraising.
Certainly, there's always people who want to, see an update on where I am. I'm sure a lot of us have experienced it where you have an injury like this, and some people really come out of the woodwork. Some people go back into the woodwork. But it's nice to be able to share with your community everything that you've been able to accomplish, and especially a way to say thank you for the fun, what you did with the funds that they helped raise. I know a lot of people who that's helped re-engage them to donate more towards my campaign, because they like seeing what I'm doing, and it also reminds them that I'm still here.
Yeah, exactly. And that there's still a need. And so once you go out and do that fundraising, the funds come back to Help Hope Live. And as Ian had mentioned, they do not count against your income. They are held within regionally where you live. And Help Hope Live manages all of those funds. So then you submit your fund requests with your bills, and we help pay those funds directly. So these forms can be found on your campaign page. They're very easily downloadable. We offer direct deposit wherever needed. We have certain partner discounts with vendors, and we prefer to pay directly to the vendor as much as possible so that you don't have to be expected to put out those funds by any means. And you can simply scan in all this paperwork and email it to our finance department as well. We try to make this as simple and as painless as possible. And I know, Ian, you've talked a little bit about, going in and out of, maybe you have a couple of years of not having to submit a fund request, but as long as you stay active with us, keep us going on what you're doing, you don't need to submit all the time. You can maybe submit a couple a year and then go on from there. I don't know, Ian, if you want to touch on that a little.
Yeah, I'll certainly like to highlight the process because it's really easy to do. For me, I will, based on what it is, if it's something that I need right now and have to pay for, and then be reimbursed, I can do that sometimes, depending on the amount, obviously. And take a picture of the receipt. It's the online fillable PDF, which makes it really easy, and then email it in. And Help Hope Live is great about dispersing those funds back really quickly. And same thing to get vendors paid, so you can get the equipment or services that you need. But like Sunny said, it is really nice that I've been able to kind of have Help Hope Live along with me throughout my journey as I've needed them or not needed them, just based on what's happening in your life, because it's, as we all know, things happen, and it just is nice to have that resource kind of already set up and ready to go.
Yeah, I would definitely say that even if at this point, right now today, you might be thinking, what, maybe I just got a new van, maybe I just got some new equipment. I don't really have anything on the horizon that I'm going to need to fundraise for. Maybe think long term though, so that you can start fundraising so that once something does arise, and we all know how expensive the items are that keep you living your life every day, it won't turn into an emergent situation. There will be funds available for you. We are here for your lifetime to help you continuously fundraise. You can start fundraising with us before you even have something in mind, just so you are prepared for your future. We really do advocate for that. And as Ian touched a little bit on things that he had fundraised toward, but just more of what we do help you fundraise toward really is anything related to your condition. Everything from equipment, wheelchairs, modified vehicles, standing frames, prosthetics, different types of therapies, to different types of care, your insurance payments. If you need to travel for care, maybe you do therapy for 1 month a year at a different center, we can help pay for those hotel rooms and any travel you have related to that, caregiving expenses, service animals, and quality of life. Obviously, it's really important that we're here to help you guys live your life as fully as possible. As I said at the top of this, whatever that looks like for you. So whether that's the adaptive sports that were mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, or assistive technology, activity-based rehab, we're here to help you fundraise toward all of it. And there may be a time that we ask you to get a note of necessity from maybe your physician or a physical therapist, if it's something that maybe we haven't heard of before, or, you know, might be a little outside of the box. But we're always willing to have the conversation before we just simply say no. So please never just assume that we're not going to cover something with the funds that are raised in your honor. And, you know, this was just a little bit more of Ian's story as we got to before. I don't know, Ian, if there's anything else you want to share about your journey so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've had a great experience out of a terrible experience. When I had my spinal cord injury, I was just a year out of high school. So I was lucky in the sense that my community was able to be so supportive of me, and still had those ties to my high school. And then I ended up going back and coaching lacrosse at my high school, which I really enjoyed, you know, for quite a few years. And just that was my way of kind of giving back to the community, and had just given so much to me right after my injury, of helping support me so that I could go home, get a van, be able to go to therapy and things like that, and continue on my life. So it was really, you know, a great way for me to give back to those people that helped me out. And I mean, the biggest thing that I can think of is, you know, it's a great resource to have, for those kind of unexpected things like Sunny just mentioned. Even if you feel like you are kind of set, you know, within your journey, we all know that life hands us curveballs all the time. And I think that's how a lot of us got into the situation we are in. So it's certainly better to be prepared for that if you can.
Awesome. And just a little bit of a throwback, but just to remind you too, the advantages of working with Help Hope Live Again are the fact that all donations that come in your honor are tax deductible. The way that we manage the funds allows you to keep any of your asset-based benefits and not have them count towards your income. And truly, and I do always say this, my personal favorite is the personal support that we're here to offer from our entire staff, from our finance department to our client services department, social media support. Our entire staff is here to support you. So you come and become a Help Hope Live client in day one, and you've got 15 to 20 people supporting you right away. So we find that really important. There really aren't many other places doing that for you. And like I mentioned, we have some vendor partners as well, and we're constantly building this list. Mobility dealerships, some van companies that offer different rebates or services. And, you know, VMI is one that offers a rebate after you fundraise a certain amount of money toward their van. Mobility Works allows you to get the 3 years of their roadside assistance program when you use your Help Hope Live funds to purchase a van through them. And then different types of clothing, and Billy Footwear is a great one. Obviously, you know, great shoe wear and different types of adaptive clothing. We're always just looking to broaden our resources for our clients in whatever that looks like. And really importantly, what does this cost? This costs nothing to you as the user and your families for anything that we're doing, anything we've talked about right now. It is all free to you. There is a 3% administration fee on all donations that come in your honor, but we do ask the donors to cover those fees when they're donating online. There is the additional 2.65 credit card fee as well. So we are asking the donors to cover those fees, and we see most of our donors covering those fees so that our clients can feel the biggest impact from their donation. So we try to do this as, you know, as easily as possible, giving our clients the most impact from the donations that come in their honor. So with all of that being said, if you guys are interested, and certainly if any of you have any questions, by all means, let us know right now, or you can reach out through email. But it's a very simple process to get started as well. You would either go to our website, click the Get Started button, and start the process yourself, and that will trigger a phone call from a client services coordinator. Then you'll have that first conversation with them, go over our program. They'll send you out a welcome packet. Once you've received and filled out the application, which has the terms of service for you to sign off on, the medical verification form, which is a very simple one-sheet form. It can get filled out from anyone on your care team, from the physician to your physical therapist, nurse, social worker. There's a $25 donation that gets your campaign page kickstarted onto our website, and that can come from anyone in your community. And then you're good to go with us. So this process can take 24, 48 hours. It can take a little longer. It's just a matter of getting everything back to us. So you can either go online and start the process, you can call the 800 number and start the process, or you can email me. And if you need a little bit more of a personal touch, maybe you have some questions, you're more than welcome to email me and I will get you in touch with client services. So whatever that looks like, however we can start helping you guys. And Ian, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add. And I know Ian's here and we have other brand ambassadors as well that are here to answer any of your questions from a client perspective as well. Because I can talk to you until, my face turns blue, but Ian's the one that's been through it and has used Help Hope Live. And so we're here to answer any of your questions.
Yeah, one last thing that I would say is, it's really just a great fundraising resource. So, I think a lot of people want to be able to help you with things that are out of your control in your community as far as, expenses. But this is, they provide all the back end and the heavy lifting that no one wants to do to make that happen. So it's really nice that there's, someone that can fill that need. And it's just been a great experience. I can't, echo that enough. I think even if I didn't use them right after my injury, I'd want to, be a client further on too, because it's a great way for me to know that, I have that kind of emergency backup if something happens, or if I, see a really cool product that I want to be able to take advantage of.
Awesome. Well, I'm gonna, obviously open the floor up yet again. If anyone has any questions, by all means, please reach out. But I understand might not always be comfortable asking in front of the group. More than welcome to reach out in person, personally through email. And I'm happy to turn the mic back over. So, but I just really appreciate your guys' time tonight. I know that support groups are a really sacred space, and I always appreciate getting in and speaking with your group and any groups. If any of you, are involved with any other groups that might want to learn about Help Hope Live, please let us know as well. I appreciate you guys.
Awesome, thank you. Does anybody have questions for Sunny or Ian?
Did a good job.
Yes, thank you. If anybody thinks of any questions and didn't catch Sunny's email, you can email us, or we'll post it again in the replay email when we send out the replay. So Sunny, Ian, thank you so much. Hopefully, and Sunny just put her contact stuff in the chat. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your meeting and a great rest of your night. And Ian, thanks again.
Thank you, Megan. Good to see you, Sunny.
All right.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys. Have a good night.
Awesome. Okay. So for our second presentation, we have Megan Moynihan with us. She is the Executive Director of the Institute for Functional Restoration. It's a nonprofit organization based at Case Western Reserve University. It has a mission to restore function to people with spinal cord injury by bringing research, neurotechnologies to the market. Prior to this, Megan enjoyed a 17-year career at the U.S. Food and Drug Administration Center for Devices. She holds degrees in biomedical engineering from Johns Hopkins University and Case Western University. Today, Megan will be describing a new neurotechnology that's being developed at Metro Health called the Key Grip, and it targets restoration of hand function for people with cervical spinal cord injury. This technology is at an early stage of development, and she's seeking input and feedback from us and the community on how it should be designed to meet the needs of users. So Megan, thank you for coming. I did make you a co-host, so if you have anything to share, you are able to do that.
Great, great. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And this is a great community and a great turnout tonight. And actually, that's a difficult talk to follow because that was a really interesting speaker that you had. I was taking notes during the whole thing. So as Megan mentioned, I'm working with a research group that's developing technologies that help restore hand function to people with cervical level spinal cord injury. And we are at the very early stages of development of a new concept. And it's really important at these early stages, before we've built anything, before we've taken it very far, to reach out to people who might potentially be users of the system to get their feedback on the idea of it, and to kind of give us feedback on some of the assumptions we're making about what would make it a good system. So this is a really early stage product concept, and I will put some slides up. Here we go. I'm going to hopefully. All right, are you seeing the presenter screen or the final screen?
Your presenter screen.
So I need to show the other screen, right? Is that better?
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, so we're tentatively calling this product Key Grip, hand grasp made simple. And the product that we're describing is intended for people with spinal cord injury, with injury levels at the C5, C6, or C7 level. So we're talking about people who are able to position their hands in space, but may not be able to open or close their hands. People who are neurologically stable, so at least a year post-injury, and with intact neural pathways for the electrical stimulation. So their hand muscles have to be excitable. And let's see, here we go. So what the Key Grip product would do is electrically stimulate paralyzed muscles to provide thumb and index finger movement. And it would allow the grasp of objects using just the thumb and index finger. And so one of the two of the requirements that we would like to have be important features of the Key Grip product is that it would only really offer one grasp pattern, what we call the lateral pinch or key grip. This is the grasp that you would use to hold a key. It sort of is like putting your thumb against the side of your index finger and squeezing. That's basically the function that we're hoping to provide. And so it would give people the ability to hold utensils and small objects, and we would give them the ability to both open and close their hand in that way. One of the other requirements that we'd like to make sure is a fixed feature of it is that it's easy to implant. So this is going to require some implantable components, but we'd like those implantable components to be able to be placed in an outpatient procedure in a 30 to 60 minute time frame. All of the implanted components would be in the forearm. And we would hope to not have a very lengthy recovery period so that people could be using the system within a couple of days. So there may be a question about why offering just one grasp pattern, because we have a long history of being able to provide multiple grasp patterns using more complicated systems. We can provide people with the ability to hold things like a can or a glass, or to lift a purse, or to even open a refrigerator door. These are all different hand grasp patterns that people can be provided with using some of our earlier technologies that have a lot more stimulated electrodes. And so we know that we can provide them, but in making this system very simple. We posed the question, if you could only provide one grasp pattern, what would you want to provide? And so in talking to our surgeons and engineers and other researchers that have been working with these technologies, they identified the lateral pinch or the key grip as the grasp pattern that most people use the most. It's a very versatile grip, and it's sort of it's used for a lot of different types of activities. So that's why we chose the lateral pinch as the one that we would try to provide. And so it's hard for me to show you what the technology would look like because we haven't built it yet, but this slide gives you a little bit of an idea. We're envisioning something that would have two very small electrodes that would be placed under the skin, one to activate the thumb, one to activate the index finger. They would remain under the skin and potentially sutured into place with in a coil shape, so it could be communicated with an external system. So in addition to the implanted components, there would be an external system that would have to be worn in order to activate the muscles for grasp. So how well do we think this would perform? To answer that question, we can look to the results that we've gotten with earlier technologies that were more complicated than what we're proposing here. But one of the things that we've learned from looking at more fully featured FES systems or electrical stimulation systems is that we tend to see very good patient outcomes with these devices. We were able to provide a number of different grasp patterns with these earlier systems, sometimes 2, 3, or 4 different types of grasp options. We've been able to show that people have a stronger grip, and I'm going to show you some data on that. And we've been able to show that people can manipulate some standard objects, and I'll show you a little bit of data on that as well. We can show that people have improved independence in performing some of their activities of daily living and improved quality of life. One of the complexities and challenges of these earlier systems was just like how many electrodes had to be implanted. Sometimes 8, 10, or 12 electrodes would have to be implanted in order to provide all of those features. The implant procedure was sometimes very long. It would be an inpatient procedure where people would have to stay overnight. Sometimes it could be 4, 5, or 6 hours long. There would be components implanted in the hand, the arm, the chest, and sometimes the abdomen, depending on which system we're talking about. And sometimes in our earlier years, we would combine the implant procedure with other reconstructive procedures of the hand in order to provide the best optimum hand posture for doing for the system. So for example, we might do tendon transfers that would optimize the hand position for these stimulation systems. Or we might do a joint stabilization procedure to sort of fix a joint in place to give it the best angle in coming in contact. So one of the reasons why the implant procedures were so long is that we were combining the implant of all these electronics with these other surgical procedures. So what we're proposing with the key grip product is to not do a lot of that. We're proposing something where just the electrodes and the implanted stuff would be put in, but we wouldn't be doing these surgical procedures on top of that. And we would bring down the surgical time for in that way. So we also have a sense of how well people's ability to grasp is with our former data from our earlier technologies. So when we're looking at data from an earlier generation system, we can show that their grasp strength was just much stronger with the stimulation on compared to when it was off. And from this data, we can also see that it stayed stable over time. So they would get strong with the stimulation on, with exercise, and with using their hand all the time. And that strength would be maintained over long periods of time. We were also able to test their performance on a standardized pick and place test. So this is a standardized test of hand function that we used to evaluate performance for different types of grasp. This is called the grasp release test. And to evaluate lateral pinch, we had people pick up and move different sized and weighted objects in a standard method. And so what we learned was that for some of the objects that were used with the lateral pinch, like the peg, the weight, and the fork, people could sometimes not even pick up the object at all without the stimulation on. But almost everybody was able to lift the object and move it with the stimulation on. And so when we think about the performance of the key grip, we would be comparing ourselves to these outcomes to try to demonstrate that we could get as good of outcomes as they've had with these multi-function, rather multi-electrode systems. So that would be our goal. As I mentioned before, we also, with earlier generation systems, we've been able to show that people have greater independence in performing some activities of daily living, and that they self-reported improvements in quality of life. And so again, with the key grip, what we're hoping to demonstrate is that we could have these similar kinds of outcomes. So really quickly then, in summary, we're envisioning a new product that's intended to provide hand function to people with cervical level spinal cord injury. It's going to have 2 implanted electrodes and an external controller system. It would be implantable in an outpatient procedure. And what we're doing at this stage is really getting input on the idea of this and trying to learn from people who might be users of it, what they might like and dislike about it. And so I'm interested in people's feedback today if you want to share your first impressions about it. And then I could also put my contact information. I would be thrilled to chat with you individually in a short Zoom call to learn more about what you like or don't like about the product. But some questions I'm interested, if people feel like they want to comment today, are, in thinking about how you hold different objects and the things that you might be using your hands for. Where does lateral pinch, how does that rate for you compared to other things that you might be doing if you had a hand system? So for example, with the key grip system and using lateral pinch, you would be able to hold pens and utensils and styluses and things like that. You might not necessarily be able to lift a can or a glass, and you might not necessarily be able to lift a bag or open a door. So how valuable is that type of function for you? What are your thoughts about the surgical procedure? It's intended to be an outpatient procedure with all the implanted components in the arm. What are your thoughts about the external components, considering that you'd have to also wear something outside the body in order to use the system? What about this makes you enthusiastic, and what are your concerns about it? So I'll post my contact information in the chat box, but if people have any first impressions that they want to share, that would be great. Thanks.
Thank you. Does anybody have first impressions?
There we go.
Okay. So Megan did just put her contact information in the chat. So if you would like to provide feedback, feel free to get a hold of her. If you can't find that, get a hold of us and we will connect you. Awesome. Thank you.
Megan?
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Megan?
Yeah.
It's Rhonda Volansky.
Yeah.
I'm a T4 complete, so I wouldn't fit into the study because you need people with a higher up level.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is really awesome that you're providing this. It was a great opportunity, and thank you. I don't know how many in the group have that injury. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that doing the key grip is smart because being able to pick up something, a lot of people have adapted to use both of their hands. So like picking up a can or water or something we've found other ways around it. But I do wonder about doing door handles, like the pesky door handles that are the circles. I can't really do those. And I know they're not very accessible. And so sometimes when out and about, that definitely is a limiting factor. So if you were to do something like that, would you have electrodes that opened up the person's hand and then closed it around the door handle, or what would that look like?
Yeah, we have a system that actually provides a lot of function in the sense that we can activate muscles to give hand function as well as trunk stability. And when you put those two things together, it gives people a lot of ability to reach like a refrigerator door and pull, because they can stabilize themselves with trunk. But let's say they don't have the trunk system and they have to just, hook their arm around. What you need is more of a power grip, or a grip that brings more of your fingers together to grab that handle and pull. And so with the lateral pinch, it's a little bit more like this. It's just a little bit more suited for smaller objects. And so we could certainly test people's ability to do more complicated activities with something like the key grip, but we don't anticipate them using it for that type of purpose. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
There was a question in the chat box about showing someone doing cross stitch. That person was using an earlier generation FVS system to do that. So in some of our earlier systems, we've been able to give people that function. Yeah.
What other questions or comments are there?
As I said, I'm super interested to chat one-on-one with folks. I put my email and phone if people want to. Oops, I put my wrong phone number there. Let me correct that. If people want to reach out, I'd be delighted to chat a little bit longer and just kind of get your thoughts on where we're going with the product concept. It's really good to get feedback before we get too far with it, because it helps drive the conversation with the engineers and the clinicians as we're going down that path. So, but I appreciate everyone's comments tonight.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
Would it be possible to also have an extender in it for the pointer finger? So instead of just clasping down, to also extend it to point or do something like that?
Like to make your finger straighter? Yeah. That's a good question. So what you're saying that would be of interest to you, to be able to have that functionality?
Yeah, to be able to be like, I'm number one. But also, it's like, if you're doing a presentation or something, to be able to point at whatever you're talking about is beneficial.
Yeah, or even pushing the buttons on a phone, or on a smartphone. So for sure. Yeah, I'm going to jot that down.
And then Brian in the chat asked, what is the time frame?
That's just a great question. So yeah, we're very early in the development of it. I'm looking to get funding this year to get underway with some both engineering and clinical trials. So I'm never good at predicting our start timelines. I would have predicted last year where we were today. So, but you know what? I can always come back and give you guys an update on where we are.
Yes. Okay, I am going to go ahead and stop the recording once I figure out how to do that. There it is.